we are not advocates who are fighting cases for or against developers.
So the GitHub roasting one was you,
Yeah.
right?
We are a small company and there's only so much money that we can give out, but DevRel job role doesn't really have a roadmap. Let's say technical aspects or tech stack that you don't know. How will you build it fast, learn it, and then you'll deliver it?
Hello, and welcome to the seventh episode of the Hustle to Heights podcast series by We Are Pleased. यहाँ हम डिस्कस करते हैं एक्सपीरियंस लोगों की करियर जर्नीज, उनके सक्सेस पाने का तरीका और उनके चैलेंजेस। इससे पहले कि हम आज के गेस्ट को इंट्रोड्यूस करें, आप जरूर जाके हमारे इंस्टाग्राम और यूट्यूब चैनल्स को फॉलो कीजिए, क्योंकि यहाँ पे हम पूरे पॉडकास्ट के छोटे छोटे क्लिप्स डालते हैं जिससे आपको बाइट साइज लर्निंग मिल सकती है। आज की हमारी गेस्ट हैं हेमंतिका मित्रा। हेमंतिका एक डेवलपर एडवोकेट हैं जो टेक फील्ड में अपनी एक यूनिक जर्नी तय कर चुकी हैं। उनकी जर्नी माइक्रोसॉफ्ट से शुरू होके आज हैशनोड जैसे प्लेटफॉर्म तक पहुंची है, जहां वो डेवलपर एडवोकेट रोल में डेवलपर्स और प्रोडक्ट के बीच में ब्रिजेस क्रिएट कर रही हैं। इस एपिसोड का कोर फोकस है डेवलपर एडवोकेट एज अ टेक करियर, और हम जानेंगे कैसे हेमंतिका ने अपने पैशन को अपना करियर बनाया। आइए ये एपिसोड शुरू करते हैं और सुनते हैं हेमंतिका से। हाय हेमंतिका, थैंक यू फॉर जॉइनिंग हसल टू हाइट्स पॉडकास्ट. We'll start with your basic introduction where you can introduce yourself from any perspective you want, and give us an overview of your journey and how that journey has, made you
Mhm.
reach your destination where you are today.
Absolutely. Firstly, thank you, Vishal, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to share my journey and let more people know what are other things in tech or other job roles that you can do in this world. So, thank you so much for inviting me. And hi, everybody. This is Haimantika Mitra, and what you see here on the screen is my username for Twitter. It's Haimantika M, and currently I'm working as a developer advocate. I'm sure that Vishal has created a long list of questions about what a developer advocate is, so I'll keep that for the last or for the later part. But for now, just this is a joke that I keep cracking, that we are not advocates who are fighting cases for or against developers. So we'll talk more about the role. But other than that, I currently work as a developer advocate at Hashnode, and before this I used to work at a startup in the same role, called like developer advocate, but the startup's name was Appright. And slightly before that I was in Microsoft, and I was working as a technical support engineer for around 1 year in Outlook and Exchange. So that's been my professional journey for the last 3.5 to 4 years now. And other than that, as a person, I love tech, and I keep building things on the side over weekends. I try to build something almost every weekend or every other weekend, but then there are also other things that I'm busy at. So I'm not great at keeping pace with my ideas or with my side projects, but that's something that I love. And with AI growing so much, I also love Gen AI. So I build a lot of projects, or I write a lot about Gen AI in general. So that's about the tech part of me. And other than that, as a person, I love traveling. I love teaching as well, which is why it's a part of my profession. And I also love plants. I love food. I like trying out different cuisines. I like trying out different cafes. So that's the not so tech part of me. But what I would like to highlight a little more is that a lot of people, they ask that, oh, why did you leave Microsoft, or how did you get into Microsoft, or how has your journey been like? It's just a long journey, but I'll try to keep it very very short. So it started with me not wanting to do engineering. I'm sure that a lot of people may or may not be able to relate. I wanted to do a normal honors course and go ahead with something else in my life, but I did engineering. And in my second year I realized that, okay, since I'm in the course, I need to code, I need to make use of it. And I was coding from a very young age. Thanks to the ICSE board, we had codings and programming language from a very young age. So I was already doing that, and from my second year, I started playing around with a lot of technologies. For anybody who is listening to me now, and you are in your college and you don't know what you want to do in your life, and you think that, oh, I'm in my second year and I'm already too late, or I already wasted a lot of time. You haven't. It's fine. Take your time to figure out things and actually do what you really like, because one thing that you must remember is your job is something where you will be spending a good 8 to 9 hours of your day, 5 days a week. So that's a lot of days. So make sure that you're doing something that you, if you not love, at least you like to do. And since I'm in my college journey, and what really helped me was when I was in my final year during COVID, which is 2020, I learned about communities. Students now, they already know about communities from a very early stage, which is great, because communities are something that taught me a lot of technical skills, but a lot of people skills as well. Because you might be great as a technical person, but if you're not somebody who can communicate well, or who is a team player, or who can collaborate well, your chances of performing well in a job might not be that good. Which is why I believe that communities helped me a lot. The first community I joined was Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador, and that back then it was known as MSP, or Microsoft Student Partner. And it helped me a lot. It helped me learn cloud technologies. I got very proficient with Azure. I learned how to write good articles. I learned how to speak. I learned different cultures, and I even got an internship after that in various US based startups and UK based startups. So those, like, picking up those skills or talking to people did help me. And especially in this competitive market, I would say that you need to be uh, good in almost all the things that you can think of, like technical skills. You need to do something more, especially since the market is so competitive right now. You need to do a little more, and you also need to know how to put yourself out there, how to make sure that you are on top of the queue. Even if there are 100 people like you, how do you make yourself stand out? So there are different ways to do that. You must have heard about building in public, and it's not only about the speaking to build in public. You actually need to build and ship projects. You cannot just go around and say things and not build actually. So that's one thing. Then there is contributing to open source projects, and by that I do not mean that you go and spam repositories and just put commas or fix a spelling. Try to learn the code base, try to see how open source projects are working, or even companies are working, and then try to contribute something really meaningful. So this is my second tip. And the third is, there are cold emailings or good communication, or even writing articles or creating videos. Writing articles is easier than creating videos. So if you're learning about a new concept, just write about that. That shows how easily you can communicate a complex problem that you learned. So these are a lot of things that even I did when I was in my college, and that really helped me. And I know this is a very long introduction, but I just wanted to highlight all of this, because if you're hearing me till now, you'll at least have some key points or keywords that you must have heard, and you can just go back home and do your Google search, or even ask your LLMs and do the rest of the part. So that's me.
Yeah, awesome. So that's quite a introduction and good, like very nice to hear about your journey, just the highlights of, with
Yeah.
tips. So that's great. So you mentioned building projects, and you do build a lot of projects on weekends, and
Yeah.
I keep following you on LinkedIn. I think I've seen a few. So the GitHub roasting one was you,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yes, yes.
I mean, before we move on to anything else, maybe let's, briefly talk about that. How did you build that? What was the
Yeah.
inspiration?
Oh yeah. So when I started building side projects, one thing for me, like, which was a focus area, is that I may be working on X, Y, G, Z technologies at my work, but I also want to learn other technologies, or I also want to, because you'll agree that in the tech world you need to upskill in other technologies, or at least have some basic knowledge of what's going on, and I wanted to do that, which is why I started this weekend project journey. That, and it only started from this year, by the way, like after getting a full-time job. Before that, while I was in my college or while I was interning, that time as well I did some of it. And my idea was that while I'm learning, I want to have fun, and I want to do something that is cool, and it is, and if I'm writing about it, I would want more people to also learn how to do it, or be actually interested in my projects, which is why the idea of GitHub Roast came up. And it was a simple application that I built just using normal HTML, CSS, and JavaScripts, and some OpenAI APIs. So what it does is that you just need to input your GitHub username, and then I send a hard coded prompt to ChatGPT that this is the username that you're getting, and using this username, roast the person, but in a very witty and in a soft manner. Don't make it very brutal. And I was also using GitHub APIs to fetch those datas. Like, it was fetching your username, it was fetching the number of repositories you have, the number of followers you have, your contributions, and all of those things. And then it was generating a roast on it. And so the flow was very simple, that you just need to put your username, and the GitHub APIs will bring or fetch those details, like repositories, stars, follows, and all of those things. And it will send it to OpenAI APIs, and then it will tell, okay, using this, generate a prompt. Sorry, I was hard coding the prompt, I was sending the details, and I was telling that, okay, generate roast based on that. And in fact, I didn't expect it to go viral. I was like, okay, I'm just doing it for fun. And it didn't have any authentication, anything, just a simple web page, that's all. But by the time I woke up in the morning, I posted it around 1 a.m. my time. And I woke up in the morning, I saw it already had crossed around I only posted it on Twitter initially, and then later I posted it on LinkedIn. It had already crossed a lot of, views and engagement, and people were like, "Hey, it's not working." And that is when I realized that the number of calls that I can make to the API, I had maxed that out. So I had to do that, and then I realized, okay, this is also happening because my GitHub API is being used, because I was not having any authentication, and it was my GitHub API that was getting a lot of requests per second. So I had to use an authentication, and then I had to handle all of these requests. And I handled this request, I think, at least 10 hours after I posted it online. And even after that, it had around 1200 to 1500 users. And I'm guessing, worst case scenario, there must have been at least 500 to 600 more users, or it was actually more, but since I cannot quote the numbers, I don't know how many users were there. But one thing, since we are in the topic of projects and we are also in the topic of upskilling, only because of this I could know that, okay, I can build apps that can handle these many users, that can handle these many requests at a time. And before that, since I didn't work with GitHub API as much, I didn't know, okay, how the nature of the GitHub API, or how I need to add the authentication, and how it will be handling all of those parts. So these are all of these learnings. I feel that some, if there are things that anybody here who is working on a job right now, and you feel you're not learning enough, so you can just do that on the side. Like, I probably wouldn't have done this on my day job, but since I did it on my side project or on my weekend project, I learned a lot. So that's
Yeah.
how it all started, and that's one takeaway that I have for this.
Awesome. So that was a really interesting project. So,
Thank you.
moving on to like going back actually to your college days.
Yeah.
Let's say someone today. I mean, there are a lot of communities and clubs, specifically at
Mhm.
least tier one, tier two colleges. They have a lot of activities for students to do, right? But let's
Yeah.
say someone who's not from a good college, how can they find communities that are not specific to colleges? Like maybe
Correct.
they are, outside the colleges, and how, like, what are the prerequisites that they should prepare on their own to be part of these
Mhm.
communities? What level should they be at to be part of these communities?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. And I belong to a college that's I don't know if it, even tier 3 is a good number, that it might be even lower than that. And back then we didn't have any communities in our college, and we were following the age old ways of hiring, that okay, you need to print stars, you need to read aptitude books, and that's how you get a job. So we were that back, and that was even in 2020, which is almost 4 years from now. So this is and I'm sure that this is not just my college. A lot of colleges, especially in India, might be going through the same phase and might be stuck in the same phase as of now. But one thing that we have in our control is internet, and if you have a laptop, that's great, because that is all you need. And I would say that focus on your academics. Don't drop out of college. This is, I feel, is a mistake that a lot of people do. Don't drop off of your college. Whatever is being taught in your syllabus, like the OSI models and everything, is equally important. You need to know those basics. Don't drop out of your college, but also make sure that you are spending at least 2 hours of your day learning something extra or upskilling on industry relevant skills. And this could be something like web development or app development, or if you want to go a different route like DevOps, it can be anything and everything. And then once you have found your niche area, you can find relevant communities for that. But since you are a college student, and a lot of these communities, that if it might be offline or happening only in Bangalore, so but there are a lot of communities that also host events online where you can learn from. Like there are a lot of workshops that happen online as well. So look for those communities. I know a few of them, like I mentioned about Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador program. And the reason why I think it's good is because it gives you credits for Azure. You learn, and you learn cloud computing, or you learn cloud concepts. So that's there. Plus it gives you Microsoft certification voucher, which is expensive, but a lot of companies which uses Microsoft tools, which is a lot of Fortune 500 companies, they find it necessary for you to have some certifications. And as a student, spending 4,000, 5,000 on a certification is a big amount of money. You don't have to do that, you get that perk. Plus, you are also in touch with Microsoft employees, and if you are really performing well, or if you are communicating with everybody well, you can also collaborate with them for some projects. I did that, and I could collaborate with Microsoft employees while I was in my college for some projects that went live and in production. So you get that opportunity. So this is one community. But just because it helped me, I'm saying that it's something that it might help you as well. I
Is
cannot
there any
give.
selection criteria for this? Is there any selection criteria for Microsoft Learn
Yeah,
Student Ambassador?
there was, but again, I graduated in 2021, so I'm not sure if anything has changed. I haven't been able to look back, but there should be, like, back then we did have criterias, like, and it wasn't a lot. You just needed to send them a video saying that why do you want to join this program and how will it help you, and when you join this program, how will you also help your peers learn about Microsoft technologies. And then that was mostly the thing. And it was like you need to be 18 years or above, and you need to have at least 2 years of your graduation left, or I think 1 year of your graduation left. So you can just Google that up, and you'll probably find more information on that, because there are chances the program structure might have changed by now. But it's definitely a great program to check out. And then there is this GitHub Campus Experts program as well, that I haven't been a part of it, but I know a lot of my juniors who have been a part of it, and they have been getting a lot of exposure, and it has been helping them career wise and to upskill as well. So that's another thing that I would like to mention. And I know about MLH. Like MLH hosts a lot of hackathons. So these are top three communities that are online and are also very student friendly. And anybody who is in your first, second, third, or fourth year of college can definitely check those out.
Cool. So great. I think that will be helpful for a lot of college students who are, just starting out their journey. So moving ahead, because we are short on time, let's just quickly maybe discuss how was your first job? Like, how was your preparation? What did you do to get your
Hmm.
first job? What was that job? And
Yeah.
like, how do you prepare for that job being from a college which you said is not even tier 3?
Mhm.
So how do
Yeah.
you prepare for that job, and how was that job?
Okay, so this might be a bit controversial because I feel that I might be very different from other people. I clearly remember that most of my batchmates were very scared about, oh, if will I get a job or not. And even though I had zero offers on my hand, I was like, oh, I'll figure out something, I'll get something. So I always had that confidence, and I didn't knew that it was a positive thing to think about back then. But this is something that I would ask any of you, that don't think that you do not deserve a big company. Or and then the fun fact that I also used to apply to Microsoft and Google a lot of times. And there was an article where people mentioned about how I cold applied to Microsoft almost 30 times and got rejected all the times until I finally got an FTE offer. So like I always dreamt big, and I was like, people used to say, why are you even applying to these companies? They hire, these IITians and all of these people, so you probably wouldn't get. I was like, what's the harm in trying? So this is something that I would like to clear, that apply, and the worst thing that can happen to you is that you'll get rejected. That's the worst thing. But if you get to the interview stage, there is so much that you can learn from, because these companies give you feedback that you can use for your next interviews. And every interview that you are giving is a practice for yourself, for you to assess where you stand in today's market, or what kind of feedback are you getting. So like don't be demotivated if you're not getting any internship or job or even interviews. Just keep trying. Most of us do not get success in our first trial, even though it might look like on social media, but it took a lot of trials and errors, a lot of frustrations, and staying away night after night. So this is very common, just to let people know about that. And for me, I especially during 2020, I mentioned that a lot because that is the time I was at home with my computer. Most of the time I was awake, just randomly upskilling on technologies and making myself. I studied electronics and communication, and a lot of subjects like networking and system design, all of these were not there in my syllabus, so I had to. But these are some of the topics that are also very important for people. So these are something that I skilled up and I prepared myself for that. And the first job that I got was at Microsoft, and it was through a hackathon. Back then it was called Fixathon. And I remember that there were around 11,000 people who had applied. The HR had mentioned these numbers to me. And then we had a normal online examination that any interview process will have. And from there, 100 people were selected. Then we had to go through almost 2 months long process where we had to build, where we had to go through workshops, and each of these were an elimination process. And then there was this whiteboarding round as well, where there was an Microsoft engineer with me on call, and I was given a series of problems to solve, and I had to tell them how am I solving them, or what are the steps that I'm following to solve. And they are almost everybody is very helpful. They were like, okay, why are you following this approach and not this way? Like if you are going a wrong way, they'll try to help you and bring you into the right way. So this was one of those round. And then I had two more rounds, and then I finally got selected for the internship. After 3 months of internship, which was also an evaluation period, I had another one or two more rounds of interviews, and then finally got my full-time offer. So that's how the entire journey has been. But it might sound like a long process, and it was a long process, but the satisfaction that you get after going through all of this process and having, being victorious, I think that's something that I cannot explain in words, but it's definitely a great feeling. And since you had asked about how was my preparation, so I would just google things. I would just say that, okay, what are the relevant things that people ask in, let's say, in my domain. For example, if it's web development, and if you want to get into FANG or any big companies, you would also have to do competitive programming and LDDs and all of those things. System design, like I mentioned, like in LD. So all of these topics, you need to do your own research. You need to know what are the things that needs to, like, have a pen and paper, have all of this listed, start watching free YouTube videos. That's what I prefer, that I didn't want to spend money on anything, But if you have the resources, if you think that you can spend a few bucks on certain things, just go ahead and do that. I did that, and then I kept crossing the paper. Okay, this is done, this is done, what next? And then I also interacted with a lot of industry professionals. I sent them my resumes, and I made friends, or also networked actively that okay, this is what I'm building. And like I mentioned, I was actually building and also learning in public. I was mentioning that this is what I'm building, and here's a video. You'll find on my YouTube channel very funny videos of me in two ponies, a typical childish face, but I still did that, and I was not shying away from doing things. I have a lot of articles from that time as well. So I was letting people know that this is what I'm building, this is what my skills are. And internet is a great place if you're discoverable on the internet. And if people will find you if you're consistent. You might also land a job through that way. So there are different ways to get success. Like my initial internships and my now jobs are through social media. Like people reached out, the hiring managers or the founders reached out to me from X, now Twitter, and then mention that if I would like to work with them. So try out different avenues, one or the other will work out for you.
Interesting. Uh, so now let's like come to the developer advocate role as a career. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
just start with what that is, what it entails. It in any company, what kind of companies have this role? So maybe just start with that.
Yes, I'll answer your last question first, which is what kind of companies have
Yeah.
this role. Any companies that are mostly product-based companies. Firstly, you wouldn't find it in service-based companies, but our role is also very similar to a lot of other roles like solution engineering, and people even relate it to product management. So if you want to change going ahead in future, you can also go into these roles. But product-based companies, and also those companies where um, it is B2D plus. You must have heard about B2B and B2C, which is business to business and business to customer. And if it is a company where the customer is a developer, that is when you'll also find this role. Like Microsoft, Google, all of these companies, they cater to developers as well. So you'll find this role here. And to mention what I do in this job role, I would like to say it like this is famous three C's that goes on in DevRel. And the first one is code. So we build integrations, or we build sample applications of our with our product. Like we are the ones who are building with our product. And at times we also maybe ship a feature or two, or versionings and all, like add to some of those feature updates, or maybe some bug fixes to production code base as well. But mostly we're involved in building integrations in the developer experience part, and in the where we are educating developers, or we are telling developers that okay, there is this tool, and using that you can build this. So that is the coding part that we do. And the second C is content. So we write a lot, or we also video do videos. I have just recently started doing that. A lot of developers, sorry, developer advocates might not do video content at all, but a lot of them might just focus on video content as well. So there's different parts, but basically the idea is to let people know, to advocate for the product, and you are advocating it to developers. So the way you are doing it, it should be very developer focused and developer friendly, and you yourself should be a developer yourself first to get into this role. So that is about the code part and the content part. And the third part is the community. So I talked about communities, and you'll see that there are a lot of these tools or open source projects that have their communities. And if they have a devrel, they will be the one who will be helping in building the community, in supporting you with any questions that you might have, be it bugs, be it normal questions. So they will also be there to support you. And we also are involved in the strategy part of things, that okay, how can I make sure that these many people are there in my community and they are also using my product? Do I need to build programs, or do I need to have more tutorials, or do I need to write better docs? What is it? So the strategy part is also involved in our work. And while I was talking about content, I missed mentioning a very important part is any tool that you follow, you'll see that there is a documentation. And in most companies the documentation is written by developer advocates, especially if it's a smaller company. Bigger companies might have technical writers who are assigned to just write the technical documentation part, but in most companies developer advocate or developer relations engineers are the ones who are doing these things. So that's what I do in my day to day job.
Awesome. Next, can you tell me if personal branding is
Mm-hmm.
important for this role? Because there are two
Yep.
ways that you're pushing content in a way, or
Mm-hmm.
pushing your product, like teaching people to use the product that you're advocating.
Yep.
One is through official company channels where basically you are just a
Correct.
creator of the content. The other
Yes.
is you're using your own personal,
Mm-hmm.
leverage where you have created your own personal brand. So how important do you think it is to have your own brand for such a role?
So it's not important at all. When I first started my job role in this sorry, I just first started my job in this role, I hardly had around 1500 or 2000 followers, I guess, and I was using, and this was in Twitter, and I was using Twitter for a very long time. And only recently is when I have started getting followers, or I started building a personal brand of my own. And I would say that it's not especially, I would like to mention the follower number part, because a lot of people think that followers are important. It's absolutely not. It is a byproduct, because you are the face of the company. You are the one who is going to meetups or conferences. So there is a tendency that people know you, people liked what you talked about, and then they followed you. But this is not important for the job, and no recruiter or no company would look at your number of followers. It's if a company is going to look into that things, then there is a chance for you to reject that company, or tell them that this is wrong, you shouldn't do that. Because DevRel as a role is also complicated, and it's because it's niche. A lot of people don't understand that. And when I say people, it also means the company heads or the executives do not understand what the role is, and they might have very different expectations from the role. So if you're going into this role, um, but personal branding is not your main focus, just make sure that you know in and out. You know what are the pros and what are the cons, or what DevRel is. You read the developer relations book, you talk to different DevRel people in the industry, and then you make an informed decision, and only then you move. And coming back to your main question about personal branding, I think it's in general it's very helpful for any job role. It's not a must for our job role or any job role, but if you can have a network of people who is vouching for your work, especially in a competitive market like this, then there's nothing like that. Like, there are maybe thousands of engineers like you, but the company will have just one role, and the company will probably interview just 10 people, and even getting into that 10 people is a big task. But if you can have somebody who can vouch for you and tell, yes, I have worked with this person, I can give them a referral, I know that this person is great. So, and that can be achieved only if you have a personal brand, only if you are doing good things. One thing that I would like to clear is, do not rush behind numbers. Your personal brand should be something or it is made out of the work that you do. And it shouldn't be that you did a viral Instagram or a Twitter thread because you knew, okay, this is how the algorithm works, or you need to do some this is word called kalesh on Twitter, and then or e-lafra, that's the word that goes to get followers. If you might get followers at the end of it, but then you won't be building your personal brand. People won't be coming to you for work, or they won't be there to vouch for you and the work that you do. So this is something that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, cool. Next, maybe you can talk about your first DevRel experience as a lead in the project, where you mentioned that it
Yeah.
became a benchmark for other companies
Correct.
as well. So, what was that, and what did you do, and how did that shape?
Oh, that's a very nice question. I love to talk about it. So, my first DevRel job was at AppRite, which was my previous company, and I knew what DevRel is, but then I didn't work professionally in it, even though I was doing some of it outside my day job. And I was really lucky that I had a very very good lead, or a DevRel manager, who was there to support me. Tessa, like a big shout out to her as well. And the first task that I was given, that Appride is an open source project which has now turned into a company with thousands and millions of customers. And one problem that most of these open source projects have is lack of funds. That it might be a great product, but since it is open source and free, and there may be thousands and millions of developers using it, but there is not enough money that you are getting. So we wanted to give back to the community. Like, our founder, he was the developer of the project, he started it, and then he then grew into a company, and he has seen days like this, and he's like, now that I have built my own company, I would like to help the community or return, like, have something back to the, or give something back to the community. And that's when we started OSS Fund. It was a simple program, and what we wanted to do is we wanted open source projects and maintainers to apply, and then we wanted to see what is the impact of the tool or the project, and how is it helping developers. And then we were giving them some funds. So this is all in all what the project or what the program was. Even though it sounds simple, but in the back end there's a lot of tasks that needs to be carried out. And as soon as I just launched it, and I didn't expect much out of it, but then it was a big success. It was being nominated in various DevRel awards about a program that should be benchmarked and followed. And even big companies like GitHub itself and Spotify, and then there are so many other companies that started doing something similar, that okay, we are having, or we are separating a fund for open source maintainers, and then we are giving it back to their cause. So, like, this is one thing that even our founder wanted to do, that we are a small company and there's only so much money that we can give out, but if you can make it a success, and if other companies or big players in the market can come up in support of open source projects and maintainers, then it is a big success for you. And that happened, and that's how I got my first big success in this role, and I'm till now very very proud about it.
Awesome. I think we are nearing the end. So maybe like one last question on
Mhm.
developer advocate or DevRel role. For anyone who's either just a fresher or who's an experienced person in, in the
Yes.
industry already, how
Mm-hmm.
do they, what, like, how do they prepare for this role? What are the things that are like very actionable point by point, that this is what they should do to prepare for an interview or for a
Yeah.
application to apply to a DevRel job, as well as
Mm-hmm.
what are some resources that they can look at, if there are any specific YouTube channels or if there are any specific books or references that you can give
Yeah.
for specifically to prepare for a DevRel role.
Yeah, sure. I would like to mention that DevRel job role doesn't really have a roadmap like any other job role. That okay, you did do this, and then your chance of getting a job is, let's say, 90%. So DevRel is not like that. And when you say freshers, if a person is straight out of college, I wouldn't advise them to get into this role. Have at least a year or two experience in development or in software development, and only then move into this role. And for somebody who is experienced, I see a lot of experienced people moving into this role, especially when they're like, I'm bored with just coding and I want to do more. That is when they move. So a typical DevRel interview would look like, some first interview will be a normal get to know or a vibe check, or the value check round that most companies do. And in the second round, you'll have, it will be a technical round. They'll ask you questions on your experience. And um, in DevRel, one thing that you need to do is you need to be somebody who is a generalist, because since we are building a lot of integrations and sample applications, you can be someone who is coding in PHP one day and coding in Next.js one day. So you need to be a generalist, you need to be able to pick up technologies fast. So a typical developer relations interview would also ask you about your technical strengths, and it would also ask you questions on how do you upskill yourself, or if you're given a task to build an application on a topic or on let's say technical aspects or tech stack that you don't know, how will you build it fast, learn it, and then you'll deliver it. So these are some of the questions that you can expect. And you'll also probably be given some assignments, take home assignments. I think these are very very similar to software development roles as well, that they'll have a technical round, they'll they'll give you an assignment, and the assignment is also a coding round that you'll have. They'll expect you to build something, and they might give you topics that, okay, build something in DevOps, or build something with our product, or build something with any technology of your choice, and then present it to us. So this is an extra step that several people have to go through, that after you are done building that integration, or after you are done building that project, you not only need to submit the GitHub link, but you also need to present. Because as DevRel people, we are also educators, or who are also educating developers about a tool. So being great in tech is great, but how do you actually make the developers understand what you have built and make them eager to try out your product? So that is also assessed during a DevRel interview. So as much as I cannot give you a roadmap, but I hope that these pointers, or what you can expect from an interview, helped you. So just I would say, if you can be great at communication, so for somebody who's an experienced person, you are already communicating and collaborating with different team members. And even as a DevRel person, we are collaborating with product team members, we are collaborating with the engineering team, we are collaborating the design team and everybody. So you need to be somebody who can collaborate and do teamwork very very well. And if you're experienced, it's given that you probably have experience in all of those things. So if you can improve your communication, and if you can also maybe your way of building things, because if, especially if you are somebody who is used to working with no code tools, see how you can code better, or you can build something fast, and or you can learn something fast. Like, these are very generalized suggestions, but then these are some of the things that you will
Mm,
be assessed on during an interview.
got it. You mentioned like for freshers to not apply for DevRel roles. Why is
Yes.
that?
And okay, the main reason is because you are somebody who is talking to developers, and for you to talk to developers, you need to be in their own shoes, or you need to understand their pain points. For example, if my product is helping you build authentication, let's say, I need to know what are some of the problems that you might have faced while building an authentication. And I can do that by being a developer myself, or somebody who has good enough technical knowledge. So which is why I suggest that don't do it straight out of college. Maybe have a year or two experience in something else, something that is especially a software development role, and or maybe a different development role, or a different technical role, and then move into this role.
Cool, makes sense.
Yeah.
So we'll close up quickly with just maybe one or two more questions. What is like your roadmap in the future? Like now you have worked as a DevRel for a few years, you've worked as a
Yep.
uh, in Microsoft as well. So like, do you see yourself going ahead in this role only? And like, what is the growth in this role? What do you do next after this?
Oh yeah, for now I think I'll stick to this role for a while. And this role, like, from you can become a senior developer advocate, then a principal advocate, and then you can become a manager. And that's if you continue being to this role, similar to an SD 1 2 3, and then a manager, and so on and so forth. But a lot of people, because since it's you must have heard that how much context switching is needed, or because we are doing multiple things on the job, it also leads to burnout to a few people. So what they do is they leave this role, and they join similar or adjacent roles, like they join maybe solution engineering, or they join product management, or they become a technical program manager, or some of them even go back to just coding and being a software developer. So
Is
there's
that easy
always
to do, by the way? Is that easy to do, switching between the roles?
I have seen a lot of people do that. So I think yes, I haven't been in that position yet, so I cannot comment much. But maybe it is easy, or it is not. I have
And
no
but it
clue
is
about that.
possible. Like companies
Yes, it
are
is
not
possible.
like open to like they are open to switching from DevRel
Yes,
to a general tech role.
yes, 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 absolutely.
So I like we have just had advice, and let's
Yep.
just end with one final advice, one big advice that you'll have for
Okay.
anyone, like not specific to DevRel, but like
Hmm.
general students, job seekers, youth preparing for their first job or
Yep.
just starting their career journey. What is one quick advice that you will give them?
One quick advice is just stick to your fundamentals for now. Make sure that your basics and fundamentals are very very clear, because in interviews you do not get asked very difficult questions. It all revolves around fundamentals and basics of computer science, and the basics that you are supposed to know while you are in a college. So focus on that a lot, and don't I see people build and have good projects, and don't try to top it up with a lot of recent technologies that you are hearing about. Try to keep it minimal, but make sure that you know in and out of what you're doing. And the third thing is, with AI coming up, use it for help, use it as a plus one, but do not use it to generate entire things for you, or do not use it to, if you're writing an article, don't use it to generate an article for you. And a big mistake that I see people doing is they also use AI to fill the job application. So please do not do that. You rather have wrong or grammatical errors rather than copying and pasting from chat gpt. So like use extensions like grammarly, or just use chat gpt to fix your grammar, but do not copy and paste directly from ai, be it for anything written or code or anything as such. So these are my top three advices.
Great. I would have loved to discuss
Yeah,
AI more with you, but I think we'll cut short and maybe we'll have another discussion some other time. So
absolutely. Yeah,
thank you so much, Haimantika, for joining me, and thank you so much for coming on Hustle to Heights. I'm sure a lot of people will get to know about DevRel first of all and get inspired to join this role. Thank you so much.
thank you so much, Vishal.
थैंक यू फॉर लिसनिंग टिल द वेरी एंड। मुझे उम्मीद है कि इस एपिसोड में हेमंतिका की जर्नी को सुन के सभी लोग कुछ सीख पाए होंगे और इंस्पिरेशन लेंगे। अगर आपको हेमंतिका से डेवरेल रोल या डेवलपर एडवोकेसी से रिलेटेड या इवन करियर से किसी भी रिलेटेड कोई भी क्वेश्चन हो, तो आप हमें ईमेल या लिंक्डइन पे मैसेज कर सकते हैं। इनफैक्ट आप हेमंतिका से डायरेक्टली भी लिंक्डइन और ट्विटर पे कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं। ये सारे लिंक्स इस समय आपको स्क्रीन पे दिखाई दे रहे होंगे और डिस्क्रिप्शन में भी मेंशन्ड है। मिलते हैं अगले हफ्ते एक नई जर्नी के साथ। थैंक यू।